How about some sports card pricing predictions for the rest of 2022? Let's have some fun with this. Stick around, everybody. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all my collectibles friends. How are we doing? It is blazing hot here in North Carolina, so I'm trying to get out of the sun, stand inside, making a video. Why not, right? It's a nice Sunday. I hope everybody is doing well. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, the likes, the notifications, all the stuff below. It helps us grow the channel and to weasel these videos out to the masses. We very much appreciate your help. Also, don't forget to connect with me on IG at SportsCardDad, as well as the Twitter machine, the SportsCardDad. I get a lot of messages, and I think that a lot of the content creator world gets the same sort of messages as, is this the bottom? Are prices going to go up? Are they going down? What do you think? What is your prediction on sports card prices? And so I figured, you know what? I'm just going to do a video kind of just big, kind of macro, just big picture talk about this, and also not even just cards, but just assets in general. We'll kind of break down some of this. I'll get into some of the nuance, but I thought this would be kind of a fun video to do and fun to look back on in the future and just see if this speculation was on or if I was way off. While I do not agree with a lot of the doomsday practitioners that are out there, I've heard a lot of, the entire world is coming to an end, and that's fine. Everyone is allowed to believe what they want. And frankly, there are a lot of crazy things going on right now. And the hope is that we are all okay. There's obviously a lot of signs, especially in the United States. There is not a lot of great news right now on a lot of fronts. It's really kind of dismal, to be honest, especially when we talk about economics. When we talk about the U.S. economy, there's pretty much a consensus that it's stagnant and or contracting. I don't see a lot of people out there really kind of bullish on the overall economic environment in the United States right now. A big part of that is we did have negative growth for the first time in a good bit last quarter. If we have it again this quarter, then by definition, we are in a recession. And a lot of people are just kind of like, you know what, we're in a recession. It just feels like a recession. We are. Look at the supply chain issues. Look at all the food costs.
Oh, and we can't afford the fun pack. What do you think? Money grows on trees in this family? Take it back.
Gas costs. Look at what's happening. And a lot of people have just kind of proclaimed or kind of got their head around like, hey, look, it feels like if it looks like a duck, acts like a duck. Is that the phrase, the terminology? If it looks and acts like a duck, then it probably is a duck. It feels like it is, so it is. What's that old saying? Perception is reality, and the perception feels that way. As you guys know, I do watch a lot of Rudy from Alpha Investments on these types of things because I think that he's really spot on. And again, I know a lot of people think that, hey, this guy's crazy for having 8 figures worth of Magic the Gathering cards, but he's done some things right, and he is diverse all across different things. He doesn't just have Magic cards. He's into equities and a lot of different stuff. So it's not as if that's his only bag. But he's made videos recently, and I really like where his head is with it, just kind of talking about these are kind of these down times that are buying opportunities, and you're never going to be able to guess the bottom. You're never going to be able to guess it. You can try, and maybe you happen to be buying some things at the bottom, but the whole idea of kind of what he's talking about is to buy on the way down. And it all kind of averages out over time. And he made, now I know cards, stocks, two different things, but he was making an analogy, and he's not even just talking about buying cards. He's talking about just assets in general, but he was talking about in the equities market 2009, he was actually working in NYC for a brokerage. And at the rock bottom time, he said something like 1% of the purchase orders, the buying orders were buys, 1%. And it was like 99% sell, 1% buys. 1% were buying. So, it will probably be at the bottom when 1% are buying. The whole point is that we will never know. We will never know what that bottom is. And so for me personally, I'm just planning to kind of buy on the way down. I'm just going to buy a lot of different things. If you watch the channel, I'm into crypto, I'm into equities, I'm into cards, I'm into a lot of different stuff. And I'm just going to pick my spots and look for where I think there's value, and I'm just going to buy on the way down. Now, on the high end of sports cards, collectibles, you've got a rich man / woman's game at this point. So yes, the Honus Wagners and the 52 Manels and the Jordan inserts, the PMGs, blah, blah, blah. That stuff, I don't see that crashing. I don't. I think that stuff on the very high end will maintain. And frankly, I think a lot of people that are, instead of, even if there is kind of a correction on the high end, they just won't sell it. That's kind of my point of view. I think that they'll just hold on to it unless you've got some sort of, I don't know, celebrity type meltdown where they spent all their money and they've got to get rid of assets. Then maybe you see a drop in price on some of that stuff. But I think for the most part, it just goes off the market. People will either take profits on it or they'll say like, you know what, it's just not a good selling environment and I don't need the money, so I'm just going to sit on it. It's that middle to lower end tier that's really interesting. That's where the majority of the hobby lives, including myself. The majority of the hobby, we see a lot of the big auction sites talk about this sale and that sale. The majority of the hobby isn't operating in that space. They're just not. They're not buying those cards. The majority of the hobby is buying lower to mid end stuff. And that's, I think, why we're here. We're kind of looking for where are the values. And if you're collecting certain things, my PC guy is Drew Brees. I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan. So the types of cards I've been looking for, these are just examples, but these are recent pickups that I've had. Black refractor. I've been really into kind of the Topps Chrome black refractors and the gold refractors, probably because of the whole like the Saints color match type thing. I just actually picked this up in a PSA 9 as well yesterday, the same card. I just love the look of the card. So, if you're a collector, you're looking for, values. But for me, if you watch my channel, I'm a collector, but I'm not just buying any Drew Brees card. I want certain things where I feel like I'm getting it at a good price point to where long term, I'm not losing money. Maybe I'm breaking even. Hopefully I'm gaining a little bit. That's the whole point for me. So my prediction is this. My prediction through the rest of the year is that we are not going to have good economic news for the rest of 2022. That's my prediction. There might be little bumps here, here and there, but I think for the most part, you're going to have interest rates kind of being the big discussion. I've seen certain people kind of talking about in the news of like, I don't think they're going to do any more interest rate hikes after June, but there will be another one. There will be another one, maybe two more. There might be 5 more. But people are trying to wrap their head around what is that going to mean? Where do they need to move money around? And so I think the rest of 22 is going to be fairly bearish. It's going to be correction type territory, but a lot of it is not going to have anything to do with athlete player performance on the field. So it's not going to make any sense that, whoever, Ja Morant is averaging 38 points a game or Luka is about to maybe go to the finals. Is it happening? Some of these guys are playing amazingly well and their card prices are going to go down and it's not going to have really anything to do with their performance on the field. It's going to have everything to do with the macroeconomic picture and interest rates having an inverse effect on asset prices. It's just the way that the world turns. It's the way that it's always been. We just don't know how much of an effect. We don't know, and we also don't know which cards. It's extremely nuanced. Collectibles are extremely nuanced. What's rare/scarce? How rare is it? Is it collectible? Which player is it? Which sport is it? There's a zillion different variables. But the big picture stuff that's affecting it now is just our overall economic downturn that we have in North America currently. So I think fairly bearish, but what I do believe is going to happen, we've got elections coming at the end of the year. This is a term that's used a lot on the equity side, but it's the dead cat bounce where essentially it's a downward trending market where you see kind of some ups, you see some gains and it looks like hey, maybe there's recovery. I think we're going to have something like that to where it's trending downward, but then we're going to have the dead cat bounce. There is an election at the end of the year and just end of the year, I think optimism. I think at some point they'll chill out on interest rate hikes and just people kind of getting the idea of, okay, maybe they're not going to raise interest rates again. Maybe there is some optimism that drives the market. But I do think as we head into 2023 that we're still going to be in kind of a funky environment economically. I mean, we printed so much money. We are going to have to pay the price for this. And inflation is the payment and they have to control it in some way. It's going to be very tough. The one thing though that I think is kind of a wild card variable when it comes to the sports card hobby that we haven't had in over a year is affordable grading, which I do think will be back as we head into January of 2023. I think it is going to take the rest of the year to and I think there will be price reductions kind of getting up into that fourth quarter. Maybe it'll be 2022 fourth quarter where that kind of takes a turn, but where it actually takes effect, I think, is Q1 2023 calendar year, Q1. I think that's when the buy raw to grade with cheaper grading services, eventually that's going to happen. I just believe that. I believe that grading prices are going to go down. I think that everyone's going to get caught up on the backlog. And to be fairly honest, I don't believe there will ever be that sort of backlog again. I don't think there will ever be that number of cards heading off to those grading companies in the same way, in part because I don't think there's going to be $8 bulk grading at PSA. I do think prices are going to go down. I don't think they're ever going to be $8 again. And so that's why I don't think that it's going to happen that way. I also think there's going to be certain people that got into the hobby during the pandemic that unfortunately are out and won't come back, even if grading does come down. We have to see hobby box pricing catch up and come back down to where, maybe not to where it was before, but it's got to be somewhat comparable. We're still in kind of this world where, hobby boxes are $1,000 for no particular reason. And it might be because breakers are buying it up to break it and all of that. I don't really know what it's going to take to get that fixed, but the hobby box pricing thing is nuts. That part has to be fixed. People have to be able to afford the product. The average Joe has got to be able to afford the product. But the raw to grade, I think that's really what kind of spurred this on over the last 5 years. The sports card hobby, it did big boom over the last 2.5 years, but it started 5-6 years ago when people were really kind of taking raw cards, grading them, and selling them at a profit. And that built up. Then you had kind of perfect storm of events happening in 2019-20 where you got just kind of the big boom, but there was lead up to that. A lot of the big time collectors in the card collections that you're seeing, these huge cards that they've acquired, they flipped up to get there. They flipped up. They bought raw, they graded, back in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and they got up into big cards. That whole thing is not as easy to do, not even close to being as easy to do. But I think we're going to get back to where it is easier to do that. And so it'll just kind of depend on how that's all going to shake out. Grading turnaround times, price points, all of that stuff. But so that is a wild card thing with the sports card hobby that I think is going to be very intriguing to watch. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts. What do you think? And I know this is very general, kind of big picture talk. So to recap, kind of a slow burn down through the end of the year. I think there's going to be some optimism kind of at the end of the year. And then I think that to 2023, we're going to get a boost because of grading costs being cheaper, but then it's unknown from there. 2023, I think the larger economic picture is going to have to unfold for us to really kind of have an idea of where we're headed. And that's not just with sports cards, that's with assets in general, all sorts of things. Hopefully the world gets to, a little bit more of a stable place. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.